Hello everyone and welcome to another video of AI 050 course. In this course, we are going to learn about how to work with ready-made Gen AI models. Remember, here we are not going to create our custom Gen AI models. In this course, we are only going to work with ready-made Gen AI models. That is what this course of AI 05 is all about. We are only going to work with ready-made Gen AI models. Alright, so Azure has created many Gen AI models and it has made it available to us in a service called Azure OpenAI Service. So in Azure, there is a rule that whenever you want to use any service of Azure, you have to create a resource of that service. So if I want to use Azure OpenAI service as well, even for using that service, I will have to create a resource of that service. So let's do that. First, I will try to search for my service of interest. In this scenario, it's Azure OpenAI. I can see an option for it in my search result. Let me click on that option. And now, since I want to use the Azure OpenAI service, I will have to create a resource of it. So let me click on the create button and it will allow me to create a resource. Now when I click on the create button, it redirects me to a form that I have to fill. So let's fill in the details of the form. First field in the form is asking me to select subscription. So remember guys that in your Azure account you can create multiple subscriptions. So for example, let's say I am a head of a company and I want to make sure that all the employees of my company have access to the Azure portal. So what I can do is I can create different subscriptions for them. So I can create one subscription for someone in the HR team, another subscription for someone in the IT team, another subscription for someone in the marketing team, and so on. Like that I can create different subscriptions for different employees. Now in each subscription I can set different amount of permissions. So for example, let's say the first subscription I was creating for a HR employee. Now that HR employee will not be doing a lot of work on Azure. Probably that HR employee only wants to use Azure for storing the data. So that HR employee will only need access to storage service of Azure. The HR employee will not require access to other services. So what I will do is for my first subscription that I am creating for this HR employee, I will make sure that the HR employee only has access to storage service, whereas other services are not accessible uh, using this subscription. Similarly, let's say the second subscription I created for someone in the IT team. Now this IT employee is going to do a lot of work in Azure. So I will want to make sure that this IT employee has access to as many services as possible. Okay, so for example, let's say I want to give access to all these services of Azure. So for this second subscription that I created for the IT employee, I will make sure that this second subscription has access to all the services of Azure. So like this, for different subscriptions I can assign different amount of permissions. Also for different subscriptions I can assign different amount of money into it. So for example, let's say the first subscription I created for a HR employee. Now that HR employee is not going to do a lot of work in Azure, right? So let's say I only uploaded $5 for my first subscription. Let's say the second subscription you created for a person in the IT team. That IT employee is going to do a lot of work in Azure. So that IT employee will require a lot of money. So let's say for the second subscription that you created for the IT employee, you are uploading $1,000 of credit into it, and so on. So the point that I'm trying to make is different subscriptions can have different amount of permissions set to it, and different subscriptions can have different amount of money uploaded into it. So you can select the subscription of your choice. In my scenario, I have two subscriptions with me. One is MSDN. So MSDN subscription is provided to me by Microsoft since I'm a Microsoft certified trainer. So they have provided me this MSDN subscription, and what they do is every month they upload $100 of credit into it so that I can deliver lectures using my subscription. The second subscription is called Azure Pass. This also I got um, from Microsoft. It's just that this month the money into my MSDN subscription had got over, so I had to conduct a lecture, and at that time MSDN subscription was not available because I had exhausted all of the money into it. So then I requested Microsoft for another subscription. So they have given me one temporary subscription, but this is only available to me for 1 month. After 1 month, it will go away. Okay, whereas MSDN subscription that they have given to me is for permanent. Okay, it will not expire after a few months or few years. It will be it is permanently given to me. Okay. Um, so let me choose any subscription of my choice. Both the subscriptions have equal amount of permissions over here, but fine, let me choose MSDN subscription. Alright, after that, the next field is asking me to assign my OpenAI resource into a resource group. So either you can select an existing resource group or create a new one. Now, what are the benefits of assigning a resource to a resource group? By the way, it's mandatory, you have to assign a resource to a resource group, but what are the benefits? Let's see. So let's suppose you are working on a project for which you had to create 20 resources. Let's say first resource is that of OpenAI service, second resource is that of storage service, and so on. Like that, suppose you had to create 20 services. Now let's say the project got over after 6 months, and now these resources that you created are of no use for you. So what you will do, you will try to delete them, right? So that the resources do not charge you more from your subscription. Now the work with these resources have gotten over, so now these resources are of no use for me, so I want to delete them. So what I can do, I can go into each resource one by one individually, click on the delete button to delete the resource, and find that resource will be deleted. Like that, I will have to individually delete each of the 20 resources, but that will be a very tedious process. Instead of that, why don't we have resources that belong to the same project inside the same exact resource group? I repeat, why don't we have resources that belong to the same project inside the same exact resource group? And when the time for deletion comes, I can directly go to the resource group, and with a single click of the button, I can delete my resource group, and with that, all the resources in that resource group will automatically get deleted. So it's like if I delete a folder, then all the files in the folder automatically get deleted. Similarly, if I delete a resource group, all the resources in that resource group automatically get deleted. Okay. So resource group helps for better life cycle management. That is one benefit. What is the second benefit? So let's suppose I am working on a project, and for that project again I had to create 20 resources. Let's say first resources of OpenAI service, second resources that of storage service, and so on. Now I want to calculate the total cost incurred by the project. So what can I do? I can go into each resource one by one and see the individual cost. So for example, the first resource costed me $5. Second resource costed me $3.89, and so on. Like that, I can go into each resource one by one, see each individual cost, and at the end I can take the sum of all these individual costs, and that's how I will arrive at total cost incurred by my project. But that is a very tedious process. Instead, why don't we have resources that belong to the same project inside the same exact resource group? Why don't we have resources that belong to same project inside the same exact resource group? And when the time for cost calculation comes, I can directly go to my resource group and see the sum of the cost of all the resources in that resource group just by a single click of the button. So resource group helps for better cost management as well. So like that, there are a lot of benefits of assigning a resource to a resource group. In simple words, you can say that resource group helps for better management of resources. Okay. So you can either select an existing resource group or create a new one. Let me create a new one. I will call it test RG, which stands for test resource group. Then it is asking me to assign a region for my resource. Remember that different resources, or I should say different regions, have different capabilities with respect to OpenAI service. Some regions will give you access to all the OpenAI models. Some regions will give you access to few OpenAI models, and so on. So you can see that capability over here in this table that is shown to you in the documentation. You can view this table and you can see region wise capability. So at the top you see the names of different OpenAI models, and you can see that that particular OpenAI model is available in which region. So the best region that you can choose is East US. With East US, you will get access to the most important OpenAI models. That's the best region that you can choose. However, since East US is so good, that's why people try to create resource in this region only. Because of that, since the last 2 to 3 months, there has been a lot of traffic issues in this particular region. So people do create resource in this region, but when they try to access the resource that was uploaded in this region, then while accessing they face a lot of traffic issues. Okay, so that's why since a few months I'm trying to avoid East US. You can select any other region of your choice depending on the model availability list. Let me select a region like Sweden Central. However, remember East US is the best one. However, since it's so good, people try to create a resource in a server of that region, and because of that, lately there has been a lot of traffic issues. Okay, that's why to avoid those traffic issues, I have selected another region. After that, it is asking me to assign a name for my resource, so let's give it a name. So I will give a name called Test OpenAI RES. Make sure that the name that you give is unique. For example, if I give a name of ABC, it says that ABC is already ABC name has already been used by someone, so please give another name. So that's why I've given it a different name over here. Let's see if this is fine. No, it says even this name is not unique. Okay, fine. That error has vanished now. I can see it. I can see a tick mark next to the name, which suggests that this name is a valid name. Alright, that's good. After that, it is asking me to choose a pricing tier for my resource. So normally you would see two tiers, free and standard. With free tier, you will not be charged for usage, whereas with standard tier, you will be charged for usage. However, the limitation with free tier is that you will get a lot of limitations with respect to access. That we can only access the resource for these many times, that many times, and so on. So the point that I'm trying to make is normally you would see two options, free and standard. With free tier, you will not be charged for usage. With standard tier, you will be charged. However, in my scenario, I've exhausted the limit of free tier. That's why free tier option won't be shown to me. Only standard tier option is shown. So let me select standard tier and let me click on the next button. So I'm redirected to next page. Now I'm being asked to select some settings for network configuration. There are three options. First option means that your resource um, will be accessible to all the people on the internet, provided that they have the necessary credentials. Selecting the second option means that you can restrict access to only certain IP addresses that you trust. So let's say you only want this resource to be accessible by the employees of your department. Let's say there are 5 employees in your department. You only want your resource accessible. Um, uh, uh, you only want your resource accessible to those employees. So what you can do is you can specify that okay, I want only these IP addresses to access my resource, and fine. In that scenario, all the people won't be able to access the resource. Only few IP addresses will be able to access the resource. But even those will have to provide some authentication to access. Okay, fine. On the other hand, using the third option, what you can do is see in the first two options, your resource was available using public internet, right? However, let's say if you don't want your resource available through public internet, um, you want your resource accessible only through a private network, not public network, only through private network. Then in that case, you will have to create that private network. Let's say I'm working in Google. So what I will do is for Google employees, I will create a private network. They will connect to that private network, and only those people who are using that private network will be able to access my resource. And obviously, they will have to provide authentication to access my resource. So authentication will have to be given in all these three options. It's just that these three options are used to limit access to certain people that you trust. With the first option, your resource will be accessible to all the people With your second option, your resource will be accessible to only few IP addresses. With your third option, unlike the first and second option where your resource was accessible using public internet, in the third option, your resource will accessible only through private network. Okay, so in that scenario, you will have to create a private network and so on. So your work will get more complex, but fine. You can use that third option if you want to. Okay, so you can choose the network settings of your choice. However, in my scenario, I will choose the first option only and proceed ahead, which is the default option by the way, and I will proceed ahead. After that, it is asking me to do tag configuration. So remember, tag is nothing but a name value pair that you can assign to resources. So let's say you are creating multiple resources. So let's say I'm creating 20 resources of OpenAI service. Let's say one resource I created for this particular course, another resource I created for Facebook client, another resource I created for Deloitte client, another resource I created for Google client, and so on. Like that, for different purposes I'm creating my resource. Now I want to search which resource I created for which client. So how to do it? So in that scenario, if I assign a tag to that resource, it will be better for me to search for that resource. Obviously you can search for the resource using the resource name that you assigned in the basics section, but the resource name, for example, I assigned a resource called test OpenAI RES. You can assign a different name like Google OpenAI RES, which suggests that okay, you are creating the resource for Google company and so on. But you can assign tags as well. Tags help you to tags help you to search the resources in a better way. So for example, I can mention that okay, this resource I have created for which client, so I will mention that it's created for Udemy. So let's say going forward, I wanted to search that okay, which resource I created for my Udemy course. I can do it with help of this tag that I created. So with respect to tag, there are two fields, tag name and tag value. You can assign any tag name that you want, you can assign any tag value that you want, it's up to you. In our current course though, I won't be creating multiple resources, so finding the resource won't be hard for me. So let me not assign a tag over here. So it's up to you whether you want to assign a tag or not. Now with this, let me click on the next button, and now Azure is validating in the background whether it can give me the things that I am asking for. If the validation is successful, then the create button will be enabled, and you can see below the create button has been enabled. Let me click on it, and with this, a resource of OpenAI service will be created. So let us just wait for a few seconds, and with that, a resource of OpenAI service will be created. So I guess I will have to wait for 1 or 2 minutes for the resource creation to get complete. So this is where we'll end this current video. In the next video, we'll work with this resource that we have created. Currently the creation is in progress, but soon in 1 or 2 minutes the creation will get completed. So that's the end of this video. In this video, all we did was we learned that if at all we want to access the ready-made GenAI models created by Azure, Azure has given a separate service available to us called Azure OpenAI Service. And if in case you want to use the Azure OpenAI Service, you will have to create a resource of it. And over here you can see we have created a resource of that service. Okay, fine, I can go to that resource. The resource has been created. I can go to that resource and then use the resource in any manner that I like. Okay, so that's it for this video. In this video we learned how to create OpenAI resource. In the next video we will learn how to use the OpenAI resource. Okay, so that's it for this video guys. Thank you for watching and bye.